Across the vast, desolate plains of the east, a chilling whisper traveled like a plague wind, carrying news of an unimaginable terror. From the deepest, unknown reaches of Asia, a horde emerged, poised to tear the very fabric of the civilized world apart with brutal efficiency. Their leader, a chieftain of unparalleled ferocity, would etch his name into history as the scourge of God, leaving only devastation. This was Attila the Hun, a figure whose very name struck icy dread into the hearts of emperors and commoners alike across two continents. His warriors, masters of equestrian combat, moved with a horrifying speed, striking targets before any effective defense could even materialize. They were not merely invaders. They embodied a primal force of nature, an unstoppable storm that consumed everything standing in its path.
The Roman Empire, fractured and vulnerable, braced for an onslaught unlike anything its venerable legions had ever encountered in their long history. Attila's ambition extended far beyond mere plunder, aiming instead for complete dominion, demanding absolute submission from every conquered nation. Before Attila, the Hunnic tribes were a collection of formidable yet disparate nomadic raiders, often warring among themselves for scarce resources. He possessed an uncanny charisma and a ruthless intellect, uniting these fierce clans under his iron will, forging an unprecedented war machine. This monumental consolidation transformed scattered marauders into a coherent, terrifying army, directed by a singular, destructive vision and purpose. Their fighting style was revolutionary, a devastating symphony of arrows, lances, and lightning-fast mounted charges that overwhelmed all opponents.
Hunnic horse archers could unleash volleys with terrifying accuracy while galloping at full speed, sowing chaos before the main attack even began. They lived on horseback, perfectly adapted to their nomadic lifestyle, making them incredibly mobile and nearly impossible to pin down effectively. Attila perfected the art of psychological warfare, ensuring that tales of his boundless cruelty and relentless victories preceded his actual arrival. Whole cities would surrender without a fight, paralyzed by fear, hoping to appease the barbarian king and avert his unspeakable wrath and destruction. His early campaigns systematically devastated the Eastern Roman Empire, leaving a trail of smoking ruins and terrified survivors in their wake. Constantinople itself, though protected by formidable walls, paid enormous tributes to keep the Hunnic hordes from its very gates, albeit temporarily.
Yet the riches of the East were not enough to satiate his insatiable hunger for glory and conquest, turning his gaze toward the decadent West. The Western Roman Empire, teetering on the brink of collapse, offered a tantalizing, if perilous, new target for Attila's relentless ambition. He sought to exploit its internal divisions, its struggling legions, and its political instability, promising an even greater challenge and reward. In 451 AD, Attila led his vast army, swelled by numerous allied tribes, across the Rhine River, plunging into the heart of Roman Gaul. This formidable invasion represented a direct threat to the very existence of the Western Roman Empire, testing its resolve to the absolute limit. Standing in his path was Flavius Aetius, the last great Roman general, a man who understood the Huns better than any other imperial commander.
Aetius had once lived among the Huns as a hostage, learning their language and tactics, earning a grudging respect from the barbarian leaders. He forged an improbable alliance with Visigoth King Theodoric I, uniting former enemies against this common existential threat to their lands. Their combined forces represented the last bastion of organized resistance against the Hunnic tidal wave sweeping across the European continent. The fate of Western civilization hung precariously in the balance, poised for a decisive confrontation of monumental, history-altering proportions. Aetius knew that a conventional engagement would be disastrous, requiring instead a strategy that leveraged combined arms and sheer determination. The stage was set for one of history's most epic and brutal battles, a clash known today as the Battle of the Catalonian Plains.
Here, near modern-day Chalons-en-Champagne, two colossal armies representing divergent cultures finally met in a thunderous, bloody embrace. The sheer scale of the engagement was unprecedented, with perhaps hundreds of thousands of warriors locked in a desperate struggle for survival. Accounts describe rivers of blood, mountains of bodies, and a cacophony of war cries echoing across the devastated French countryside for hours. The battle raged fiercely through the day, with both sides suffering horrific casualties, but neither gaining a decisive, lasting advantage initially. King Theodoric I of the Visigoths tragically fell during the fighting, a huge blow. Yet his death only galvanized his warriors to fight harder. Aetius displayed masterful generalship, preventing the Huns from outflanking his positions and containing their ferocious cavalry charges repeatedly.
As night descended, the Huns retreated to their wagon-lager, a fortified camp, having failed to achieve the decisive victory they desperately sought. This was not a total defeat for Attila, but it marked the first time his seemingly invincible forces had been genuinely checked in open battle. Though not crushed, Attila withdrew from Gaul, his aura of invincibility somewhat diminished, but his strategic cunning remained undiminished entirely. He turned his attention towards the Italian peninsula, the very heartland of the Western Roman Empire, seeking a different path to domination. This unexpected pivot presented a new challenge for Aetius, who had to anticipate Attila's next move while rebuilding his shattered alliance. In 452 AD, Attila unleashed his fury upon Italy, sweeping through the rich northern plains, leaving a path of unimaginable destruction in his wake.
Aquileia, a prominent Roman city, was utterly razed to the ground. Its inhabitants, Aquileia, a prominent Roman city, was utterly razed to the ground, its inhabitants massacred or enslaved, serving as a grim warning to all others. Panic gripped Rome, as the imperial capital found itself virtually undefended, its legions depleted after years of constant warfare and neglect. Attila's march seemed inexorable, an unstoppable force bearing down on the ancient city, threatening to erase millennia of civilization entirely. The Emperor Valentinian III had fled, leaving the city defenseless, its citizens fearing the same brutal fate that befell Aquileia just months prior. Desperate measures were required, as military options seemed exhausted, and Rome's traditional defenses offered no immediate viable solution. Then an extraordinary delegation emerged, led by Pope Leo I, venturing north to meet the barbarian king, a desperate plea for peace and mercy.
The meeting between Attila and Pope Leo I remains shrouded in historical mystery and theological legend, yet its outcome was undeniable and pivotal. Remarkably, Attila halted his advance on Rome, deciding to withdraw his forces from Italy without sacking the imperial capital, defying all expectations. Historians debate the true reasons for this astonishing reversal, attributing it to a combination of factors, each contributing to his decision-making. Perhaps the threat of plague, lack of supplies, the omens from Leo I, or even superstitions regarding Alaric's fate, all influenced the formidable Hun. Whatever the cause, Rome was spared, an astonishing outcome that cemented Pope Leo's legacy and preserved the ancient city for centuries more. Attila, still undefeated, but perhaps feeling the weight of his empire's fragility, turned his attention back towards the eastern frontiers once more.
He planned new campaigns against the Eastern Roman Empire, seeking to exact further tribute and solidify his sprawling, formidable dominion. Yet his reign of terror, which had cast such a long shadow over Europe, was destined to end not on the battlefield, but in unexpected quiet. In 453 AD, Attila celebrated a new marriage to a beautiful Gepid princess named Ildiko, marking a moment of rare personal revelry and festivity. The celebrations were reportedly lavish, filled with feasting and drink, marking a brief respite from the ceaseless demands of brutal conquest. On the morning after his wedding night, the fearsome scourge of God was found dead in his bed, a silent end to a life of unparalleled violence. The exact cause of his death remains debated by scholars, attributed variously to a hemorrhage, excessive drink, or even a cunning, silent assassination.
His death fragmented the Hunnic Empire, as his sons squabbled over succession, unable to maintain the unity forged by their formidable father. The empire Attila had so painstakingly built through fear and blood collapsed with startling rapidity, dissolving into tribal warfare and chaos quickly. The Hunnic threat, which had terrorized Europe for decades, vanished almost as quickly as it had appeared, leaving behind a scarred continent. Attila's legacy, however, lived on, echoing through the ages as the ultimate barbarian, the destroyer of worlds, a force of pure, unbridled destruction. His campaigns irrevocably altered the geopolitical landscape of Europe, contributing significantly to the eventual downfall of the Western Roman Empire. He demonstrated the terrifying power of unified nomadic tribes, pushing the limits of imperial defenses and reshaping the concept of warfare fundamentally. For generations, his name was invoked to instill fear, a cautionary tale of hubris and the fragility of even the most powerful civilizations. The ancient world would forever remember the devastating passage of Attila, a king who bent nations to his will through sheer terror and brutal force. Yet, amidst the terror, Attila unknowingly accelerated the birth of new European kingdoms, forging new identities from the ashes of Roman dominance. From the crucible of his destructive reign, a new world began to slowly emerge, built upon the ruins his cavalry had so mercilessly trampled. The scourge of God had not merely destroyed, he had cleared the ground for something profoundly different, a future he could never have envisioned. So, while remembered as the destroyer, Attila the Hun paradoxically became an unwitting, brutal midwife to the very civilizations he sought to obliterate.